For over 15 years, Android has dominated the market. But what if the Android we know never existed? What if instead of Apple competing with Android, they just bought it, killing the competition before it even started? It might sound crazy, but this is a possibility that could have become a reality. So it's 2005, YouTube is like in diapers, Facebook's exclusive to college kids, and your phone probably slid open and had some sort of custom, sort of funky jam.mp3 ringtone, and somewhere in a modest office, a startup called Android Inc. is quietly building a mobile OS based on Linux. And their pitch to companies that wanted to buy them was pretty obvious. It was a customizable, carrier-friendly operating system that could run on a variety of devices. And very clearly, it was available to be purchased. And Andy Rubin, the founder of Android, was shopping it around, and Apple could have made the move. And Apple had reasons to care. In 2005, they were crushing it with the iPod. But Steve Jobs saw the storm coming. He knew phones were going to eat the iPod alive. And his short-lived partnership with Motorola on the iTunes-capable rocker was an absolute mess. He hated it. He wanted to build a phone and do it fast. So imagine this. Instead of building iOS from scratch, Apple buys Android. They rework the interface, lock it down the Apple way, and use it to fast-track the iPhone. Now, suddenly, Android's not competition, it's the foundation. And boom, in this timeline, Apple makes the deal first. They buy Android, and everything changes. Best case scenario, Apple takes Android's Linux-based foundation and uses it as the launch pad for the iPhone. Instead of building iOS from the ground up, they retrofit Android into something sleeker, simpler, and unmistakably Apple. The UI gets the full Johnny Ive makeover, goodbye, like command line flexibility, hello polished gradients, and sort of one home button to, rule them all. It's still Apple's design, it's still Apple's UX, but with Android's guts buried deep under the hood. It becomes the quiet engine under the iPhone, invisible, uncredited, and tightly controlled. Let's consider the worst case scenario. What if Apple bought Android just to kill it? Jobs was not exactly shy about competition. He famously told Walter Isaacson, his biographer, quote, "I'm going to destroy Android because it is a stolen product. I'm willing to go thermonuclear war on this." And that was after Android became Google's platform. What if Apple acquired it earlier? The strategy might have been even simpler. Just eliminate the threat before it becomes a threat. So instead of using Android as a foundation, Apple buys it, shelves the code, dissolves the team, and just builds iOS anyway, but now without a future rival breathing down their neck. The open source vision was gone. Google's fallback plan cut off at the knees, and the second major smartphone platform really never gets off the ground. And that's when I think things get bleak. Without Android, Apple owns mobile. Not just the high end, they own everything. No Galaxy phones, no Pixel, no whatever Motorola is doing, just Apple's lineup from top to bottom. There's no pricing pressure, there's no push towards budget phones, and probably most importantly, there's no incentive to open up the platform. Apple charges whatever it wants, releases when it wants, and moves at whatever pace it wants, because I don't know, what else are you gonna do? You want a large screen in 2011? Too bad, 3.5 inches is perfect. Want multitasking widgets, USB-C? I don't know, custom keyboards, file access? Like, you're not getting those, because in this timeline, no one's around to force Apple's hand. In the real world, Android was the disruptor. It gave people choice in hardware and features, and probably one of the largest ones in price point. And it forced Apple to react. Big screens came after Android phones went huge. Widgets, Apple mocked them and then added them. App flexibility, Android led that way. Even Apple's own pace of software updates and hardware refreshes got faster because Android wasn't just competition, it was motivation. And that street went both ways. Apple's obsession with polish, security, and design pushed Google to make Android better too. Faster updates, material design, tensor chips, Pixel phones, privacy dashboards. It was a rivalry that made both sides better and made consumers the ultimate winners. But this timeline, there's no rivalry, there's no pressure, and there's little progress. And the smartphone market becomes a monoculture. It's sleek, expensive, and it is locked down. We have one company, one vision, and really no challengers. All right, so we're talking about alternate tech timelines today. Like, what if Apple actually bought Android back in the day? The ripple effect obviously would have been massive. Entire ecosystems would look totally different. It made me think about my own kind of what if moment. So what if, back when I ran Techno Buffalo, what if I'd picked better hosting from the start? Would I still have the site? Because honestly, well, building the content community was awesome. Keeping that site online was the biggest challenge. Constant crashes, slow load times, all thanks to bad hosting. If I had something like this video sponsor Kinsta back then, life would have been a lot easier. So for starters, they'll move your site for free, zero drama. You get a full 30 days to try it risk-free, which is way more generous than most Apple warranties, if we're being honest. And performance-wise, sites run up to 200% faster on Kinsta, and the custom control panel, way more intuitive than like cPanel nightmares. My favorite part is their support team. Actual WordPress experts, not robots, not vague email replies 3 days later, like real humans helping you fast. And if you're managing a site and you're tired of playing tech support, just give Kinsta a shot. Your first month is free. And if you're tired of being your own website support team, switch to hosting to Kinsta and get your very first month free. And don't worry about the move. They'll handle the whole transition for you. No tech expertise required. Just visit kinsta.com/Rettinger to get started. That's KINSTA.com/Rettinger. This timeline, Android's gone. Apple bought it. It's game over. What does Google do next? So first, I think they try to build their own OS from scratch. And in theory, it sounds doable. In practice, I think it would have been a disaster. Google had zero experience building operating systems at the time. Chrome OS wouldn't arrive until like 2009, and even then it was built for laptops, not phones. Maybe a rushed G Phone OS would likely have been buggy, bare bones, and I'm guessing light years behind what Apple was already cooking. They maybe looked to partner with someone, maybe Nokia, Palm, BlackBerry, but none of those platforms were made for what Google needed. They needed a touch-first, web-integrated, cloud-connected experience. They were designed for keyboards and carriers and enterprise buyers, not the app economy. Maybe someone in the back of a board meeting raised their hands and suggests turning Chrome OS into a phone platform. Again, great in theory, but this is 2006. Mobile networks are slow, web apps are primitive, and Wi-Fi is still kind of a luxury. A web-only phone experience in 2006, basically a paperweight with a search bar. And going all in on hardware, that's another moonshot. Google didn't make devices at all. Pixel team didn't exist. Nexus wasn't a thing. They'd be starting from zero in a race where Apple already had like a 4-lap head start. So maybe they released something, I don't know, I'm gonna call it the Google Wave phone. It's ambitious, it's probably underpowered, and boots into a glorified Chrome browser. Meanwhile, Apple, who bought Android, is defining the mobile experience, raking in revenue, and probably most drastically setting the rules. Google does not get to lead. It gets to follow, and only if Apple lets it. So what happens to the world's biggest Android partner today? Samsung. So in our real timeline, Samsung is Android. Sure, Google built the software, but it was Samsung that brought it to the masses. And the Galaxy S series didn't just popularize Android, I think it validated it. The Note series redefined productivity, the fold and flip lines brought, I think, like sci-fi experience to your pocket. Samsung gave Android a premium face, it gave them global reach, and it gave them hardware that could rival and oftentimes surpass Apple's. And at its peak, Samsung wasn't just an Android partner, it was like Android's muscle, its enforcer. The marketing, the flagship phones, the massive global distribution, all of that helped Android dominate worldwide, especially in regions where iPhones were too expensive or too locked down. And for millions of users, Samsung was the brand and Android was just the engine. But in this timeline, Samsung doesn't get Android. Apple already bought it and locked it away somewhere. So what does Samsung do? They're left scrambling for an operating system. Maybe they try to resurrect Bada OS. That was their homegrown platform that never really took off. Maybe they double down on Tizen, which was originally designed for smartwatches and ultimately TVs, not really high-end smartphones. I think their option's great. Maybe they go crawling back to Microsoft and become the premier partner for Windows Phone. It's probably a topic for another video. But we've seen that movie. We've seen how it plays out, and it doesn't end well. Windows Phone had a few nice ideas, but it lacked an app ecosystem, developer support, and most importantly, the momentum to just keep up. Even Nokia, a huge player at the time, couldn't save it, and probably Samsung wouldn't have either. So that means Samsung either fades into irrelevancy or shift roles entirely from the brand behind the scenes to supplier. They already made Apple's displays, chips, and memory in real life. In this alternate reality, they might have just sort of been their full-time job, quietly powering iPhone instead of competing with them. And the really fierce Apple versus Samsung rivalry that defined the tech world of the 2010s, it doesn't happen. There are no patent wars, no commercials mocking iPhones, no viral next big thing campaigns, no notch commercials, none of that stuff. Samsung doesn't challenge Apple because in this timeline, they didn't have the tools to fight. And without Samsung pushing premium Android phones to the mainstream, Android's brand, even in whatever fragmented version might have emerged elsewhere, would not have been the same. It wouldn't have scaled the same way. No massive Galaxy launches, no hardware innovation races, no foldables in your hand by 2020. Samsung without Android is a weaker Samsung, and it's a weaker Android. Where does that leave us? Without Android, the entire mobile industry bends around like Apple's gravity. There's no counterweight, no open source ecosystem, no pressure to adopt features people actually want, just a premium phone locked down with a vision of what they think a mobile OS should be. Google gets sidelined, Samsung never becomes a mobile player, and the app economy, it becomes the Apple economy. Today, in the real world, over half the world runs on Android phones, from $100 phones to foldable flagships. In this timeline, the world only runs on iOS, and iOS only. What about the services we rely on now? Without Android, Google Assistant doesn't exist. Android Auto's gone. Pixel innovations like astrophotography and live translation, I don't think they ever happen. Even the concept of a $400 powerful phone would sound ridiculous because there's no competition to force Apple down market. It's not just a different smartphone era, it's I think a different internet. One that's slower, less competitive, and less global. One that moves on Apple's timeline and only evolves when Apple's ready. But Apple acquiring Android sounds like a clean, just straight up power move. But power without competition doesn't really lead to progress. In the world we live in, Android forced Apple to get super uncomfortable, to rethink its screens, features, policies, and pace. And Apple in turn raised the bar for design, polish, and performance. And that friction, it built the modern smartphone. So maybe the near miss was like a gift to us. Maybe it gave us choice, it restored balance to the force. Progress definitely gave us that, gave us a few green bubbles along the way, because in a world where Apple bought Android, there's no room for rivals, no space to push back. And without resistance, even the best ideas stop evolving. We didn't get better because one company won, we got better because nobody did. And if you're glad we still have choices, phones and features and the chaos, hit that like button. And also let me know sort of what your what if idea is below. I've got a few ideas and I want to rewrite tech history with together.